We're back, folks. Hello and welcome to the Democratic Small Business Caucus. Well, wait a minute, let me get it straight. The Virginia Democratic Small Business Caucus. And it's live streaming to all of our platforms. Folks, we have a fantastic show for you. We got a great guest coming up, but I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about first, and you know what that is, right? Oh, let's groove to Bob for a minute. Don't let them fool you, baby. Woo! Oh, no. What we're going to do is just remind you, don't let them school you. You got to stay on point. You got to stay in there and realize what's going on. You have to stay on point. Have a mind of your own and check out things. All right, I love to just kind of jump in and just crank things. Yeah, all right. One more thing, and then we're going to cut it. Could you be loved? We love to hear. Oh, let's bring it down some, folks. There we go. There's our intro. We're just getting started. Just to let you know, thank you so much for being back here again with the Virginia Democratic Small Business Caucus Show live. That's right. We're live coming at you on multiple platforms, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, and we're trying to get to Instagram, folks. We're going to get there eventually, but I'm just happy, very happy to see that you're back again, whether or not you get it on demand or whether you're here when we're doing the show. Just glad to have you back. Oh, looks like I'm looking over here at my technology. My Wi-Fi is a little low, and that kind of tells me sometimes it may shake a little bit, but don't worry about it. That's all okay. You run into that when you have a live podcast coming from my office here in Northern Virginia. And folks, I just want to ask you one thing that I always ask you when we first get started. Are you taking care of yourself? I certainly hope that you are. Okay? And because I know all those folks who are out there who are Virginia Democratic Small Business Caucus members and folks who are out there who are small business owners who support Democrats, may not be members of the caucus, or folks who are just supporters of Democrats. People just like tuning into the show. I just want to let you know, listen, you are so much loved, and we want to continue to let you know what's going on here in Virginia and across the nation. And we have some interesting folks that we give you a little bit of entertainment by hearing something about a special guest that you maybe hadn't heard from. And I still got these crooked glasses. Man, I got to fix these glasses. But anyway, I need them to see. That's right. They're tilting to the left or the right. I don't know, but that's okay. Listen to what I got to tell you. The first thing I want to tell you is this. Listen, have you gotten your shot? You know, COVID is still out there and causing trouble, and his buddies out there, whatever they call that, monkeypox or whatever. Listen, I just want everybody to be safe. Listen, as I tell you every week, I've gotten my first shot, my second shot, I've gotten my booster. I wear my mask from time to time in the areas where I know I need to wear it. But I'm just concerned in making sure that people understand that this is not over yet, folks. And we want you to be out there for your family, for your community, and for yourself, and continue to make sure that you're safe and that your family is safe and your friends are safe. And just your community. So if you haven't gotten your shot yet, think about it, make the right call, whatever you think is best for you, and take care of it. That's really all you have to do. And listen, we just want you to be here, okay? We just want you to be here. And folks, I just want to let you know there's some exciting things that are going on here in Virginia. We got an election that's coming up all over the country. That's always exciting. There's going to be folks who are going to get reelected in the House, and we got interesting things that are happening on a state level. Democrats are still there. We're not gone. We're still here. We may not control any of the executive offices, but we're still there controlling the Senate. We're a firewall to try to stop bad things from happening. And, we're doing what we can do also in the House of Delegates. So we're still there fighting a good fight. But remember, it's all about the long game. It's not about the short game. So stay in there, folks. Stay in there. We got great things happening on the Hill, too. Joe Biden and the administration is doing the best that they can do, given the numbers that they have. And, listen, as I told you last week, and I'll tell you again this week, if you don't like the fact that certain things are not getting passed because we don't have a supermajority in the Senate of the United States, then you know what? That just means one thing. You got to elect more Democrats. You got to make sure that the president can get the bills and sign them. He's already told you, I'm going to sign it. The House is passing bill after bill after bill after bill where they go to the Senate and die. Even though we are in control of the agenda of the Senate, we don't have enough votes to break the filibuster. And that's why a lot of the bills that we're seeing in the Senate that Democrats want to see happen aren't happening. And even when we're trying to address even things like with the Supreme Court latest decision with Roe versus Wade, a lot of people are upset about that. Well, guess what? You get enough Democrats in the House, you can pass a law and that'll be done. It'll be done. That law will be passed, and women will have their right to privacy. Women will have the right to control their own bodies. And guess what? It's not just about women, because women have sons, they have husbands, they have grandparents, and they have other issues that are privacy issues that are more than just what happens to women. So folks, stay in there for the long game, show up and vote. That's what I tell you. You know, there's a famous quote out there: don't boo, vote. Register to vote, get registered, get going, support your candidates on a local, on a state, and on a federal level. And how you do that is making sure you're registered to vote. That is why so many people are spending all kind of time and energy to prevent you from voting. Because in a democracy, your ability to vote is like air to your body. Your vote is like what you need in a democracy in order to make sure that the things that you want to happen and the people who are like-minded are representing you, and laws are being passed on a local, on a state, and on a federal level. So we need to vote, not just on federal elections, not just when presidents out there. You need to vote locally. A lot of this stuff that's happening that we don't like happens on a local level and on a state level. So you have to vote in every election in order to make sure we have a majority on all levels to make sure the things we'd like to have happen. And right now, folks, there's a major battle out there. I'm telling you, there is a major battle out there. And that major battle that's going on out there is they just don't want you to be successful. Your competition doesn't want you to be successful because they're trying to prevent you from voting. And listen, folks, just because you win something doesn't mean that you maintain it. Okay, so I'm a small business owner. A lot of the people who come on the Virginia Democratic Small Business Caucus show live are small business owners. I mean, so we know that if we want to get things that's going to help us to be in a better position for our businesses and to help us to be in a better position to help our families and to help our community, we need to know that our vote is not being suppressed and that people are out there having the opportunity to vote and support the people and have the outcomes of their votes to actually be counted and actually get the people into office on a local, on a state, and on a federal level so these things can be passed. You know, and every week I come on here and I talk about the same thing. Yeah, I want to talk about small business issues and, you know, we're surviving, but you know what's most important? Voting rights. It all starts with voting rights. If you do not have voting rights, listen, you can't pass policy. You know, you can't stop people from driving you out of business. You can't pass policy, economic policy that helps it's more affordable for you to get a loan or to send your kids to college or to stop police brutality, or I can go on and on and on. It all starts with the vote. Everything that you need to get done starts with the vote. So I'm talking about voting rights until we get some things accomplished and done, because there's some things that we had to fight against to get us to where we need to be. So folks, I'm going to start in, as I always start in on every show, talking about the trinity of the basis of our civil rights in this country. And they start first. Let's talk about the Civil Rights Act of 1964. That act prohibited the discrimination on the basis of race, color, sex, national origin. It also had provisions in it that forbade discrimination on the basis of sex, as well as race in hiring and promoting and firing. So all of those things are important. And if you see those images that are down there at the bottom, you see people had to fight a lot to get things done. You know, people had to, police and dogs, and you see people protesting to make sure that those voting rights got put into place in 1964. And now look at what you have. You have LBJ with Martin Luther King and other politicians who are Democrats getting the Civil Rights Act of 1964 signed. And the result of children going to school together and integrated classrooms, integrated places at work, nobody's being discriminated against, at least not legally, right? So those things are important that you get that passed, right? The next thing that happened after that is the act that was signed into law called the Voting Rights Act, 1965. That act on August 6, 1965, signed into law by LBJ, passed by Democrats, outlawed discriminatory voting practices that had been adopted in many southern states after the Civil War, including, voter suppression stuff like literacy tests as a prerequisite to voting, like a lot of the voter suppression stuff that you see out there now, which is, a lack of polls that make you stand in line 3 hours to cast your vote, or purging names off of the voting list just because you didn't vote in the last election. I mean, there's tons of them. When I say tons of them, folks, there have been laws passed in 43 states, more than 400 laws that make it more difficult for people to vote. Including when I started to talk to you about these the bills that have been passed in the House of Representatives in order to fix what the Supreme Court broke. And that is very important, because everything that we do is in a democracy is based on that right for you to be able to vote. Let me tell you about the last civil rights bill that was very important. And that is not the Voting Rights Act, but that was the last one that was passed, was the Fair Housing Act. The Fair Housing Act of 1968. Expanded on previous acts. It prohibited discrimination on the sale, the rental, the finance of housing based on race, religion, national origin, sex, and has further amended for handicapped people, family status, which might be single women, or it might mean people who are in LGBTQ relationships, but basically known as Title VIII of that act, also was known as the Fair Housing Act of 1968. And you probably say to yourself, why does Mark come on and talk about these three civil rights acts every time he does the Virginia Democratic Small Business Caucus show? Because all of the laws that have come from those three basic laws really are the modern laws that come up that we have today. Roe versus Wade basically got passed because of that. Other different laws that are out there that are civil rights statutes all come from that. The Miranda statute and other different statutes all come from those basic three civil right based laws. Now, let me tell you what we've been doing, folks, and what the House of Representatives have been doing. And they've been busy, right? So let's talk first about H.R. 4. H.R. 4, better known as the John Lewis Voting Right Advancement Act. The key thing in this bill is pre-clearance. Pre-clearance basically means before any laws can be changed, any laws, they have to go through the Department of Justice, and it has to happen at least 180 days before an election. It also modernizes the Voting Rights Act formula determining discrimination in states and localities. And it also gives the government the authority to send in federal observers to monitor jurisdictions for potential risk of discrimination at the polls and voting. So the pre-clearance piece, to let you folks know, the pre-clearance piece is what the Supreme Court took out in 2013. And that's when you started having all these different laws in these 40-some states, and over 400 and something voter suppression laws started to appear, because at that point, that meant any state could pass any law regarding voting that they wanted to, because they no longer had to go through the Department of Justice. So basically had an even playing field in all 50 states and territories where Americans vote, So nobody could get away with any sort of hanky-panky or any other thing, or doing the sort of things that they did in the Jim Crow era and before. It basically made voting was an even playing field, so you could get people in office who represented the sort of ideals that you wanted to see passed and laws that you wanted to see passed. It was so successful, the Supreme Court basically said, well, 2013, hey, there's no more racism in the country. There's no need for the Department of Justice to be involved. Listen, we're going to get rid of that. And, voting belongs to the states anyway. They get to do what they want to do with it. You're not going to need that pre-clearance thing anymore. And guess what? If you don't like it, the Supreme Court said you can always just put it back. And that's what H.R. 4 is doing, putting it back in the law, because there is racism in the country still. There is discrimination in the country still. But most Americans support the Voting Rights Act. So, that's the reason why Joe Biden was and Kamala Harris was voting in the office, because people believe in that. That's why the Democrats control all three levels of government on a federal level, because they supported those things and they wanted those things put back. Okay, that's what that's all about, hey. And let me tell you the next thing. We'll talk about the H.R. 1 is for the People Act. The House of Representatives did so much that they were so successful on. They basically said, well, let's even modernize this thing even more so. And they basically said, we're going to expand access to voting. We're going to make it easy for people to vote across the entire country, not just in states like Virginia and other states that don't have this issue. They basically said we're going to have automatic same-day voter registration nationwide, 2 weeks of early voting for all voters. We're going to ban the purging of polls. I told you about that earlier. And we're also going to restore the full protections of the 1965 Voting Rights Act, which was decimated by the Supreme Court in 2013, which I just told you about earlier. And also it had other goodies in it, like finance reforms, banning foreign money loopholes, election security, independent commissions to prevent gerrymandering, and grants to help states replace old and outdated voting machines. And also additional processes for auditing and securing election results. And you probably say to yourself, what's that all about? Well, let me tell you. You know what happened in the 2020 election? People tried to, our folks on the other side of the aisle tried to fix the election after the fact by changing the electors who were supposed to be elected in the office. That's what all that whole thing is about that's going on the Hill now, and why the people who attacked our Capitol and, went inside and did all kind of crazy things. That was all on the basis of folks trying to change the outcome of the will of the people. When they voted, they got the majority. When you vote, you have the majority, you get all the electors for that state. That's how it goes. And then that process that goes through, basically the vice president comes in and they do their due diligence, and the president is actually put into place formally. I'm just giving you the high levels of that. But what happened on January 6th was an attempt to stop that. So what's going on now as a result of that, reason why you need to continue to vote on a local, a state, and a federal level is because there's a position, elected position known as a Secretary of State on a state level, not the federal level. We're not talking about that Secretary of State, but this particular person in your particular state has the ability to make sure that all elections are held fairly, and that the electors, that the people from the Electoral College that happen after the vote is done is sent to the federal government, and the federal government goes through that process when they elect the president of the United States. So what's actually happening now is they are trying to fix, even if you go through all the obstacles and jump through all the hoops with voter suppression, they're going to say, if I'm the Secretary of State, I'm going to try to prevent that count by saying there was something wrong with it, and I'm going to throw it into the state house, and therefore get them to change the outcome of the vote of the vote of the people. So that's basically trying to fix the vote after the vote has been had by people, and make sure that they can get the result that they want to get by changing things and trying to fix the system after the fact, by having someone who may be unethical willing to do things like that if they're elected as Secretary of State. So folks, we have to protect the democracy on all levels. local level, a state level, and on a federal level. But folks, that's why I said you got to stay woke. It's Woke Wednesday. All these things are going on out there, and you need to make sure that you're aware of them and that you're basically going out there and checking this information for yourself, checking multiple media sources, doing your due diligence to make sure that you understand what's going on and people having an opportunity to tell you what's going on. You don't have to believe me. Go check it out for yourself. You got a phone, Google it. You can check anything you need to check, but I'm just saying check all sources. But I'm telling you the truth. These are the things that are currently going on. So the Democrats have been doing their thing. We've passed the Freedom to Vote Act. We've passed the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, and even the Senate, they did their part. I don't want to not let the Senate get, it's shine. The Senate basically came together and said, hey, we passed a bill called, we wanted to pass a bill called 2747, the Freedom to Vote Act, FTVA. And basically what it included was national automatic voting registration, prohibitions on voter roll purging, federal partisan gerrymandering, and proving election mergers. It also strengthened ethics standards for all three branches of government, requiring candidates to disclose, if you're running for president, 10 years of your tax returns, and prohibiting members of Congress from using taxpayer dollars to settle sexual harassment suits. That sounds familiar. Yeah, it does. And also it forces super PACs to disclose their donors, requiring government contractors to also disclose their political spending, prohibiting coordination between candidates, super PACs, and other things. There was a lot of stuff in that bill. If anything, the Senate had their bill out there. They're saying we want to get that passed, but none of that got passed because we didn't have enough Democrats to have a supermajority in order to have at least 51 votes is what we needed to change the filibuster rule. But if we have 60 senators in the Senate, basically the Democrats can pass whatever it is that they need to pass and make it a law. So folks, all that comes back to voting rights. So I'm out here every week talking about this, and you say, well, what can I do, Mark? What can I do? I tell you, you can vote. There's lots of things you can do. But one of the things, our call to action is you want to get out there and basically call your senator, call your representative, call whoever you need in the government and say, I'm aware of HR 1, I'm aware of HR 4, I'm aware of 2747. And the folks who are running for office on a federal, state, and local level, and I'm talking mostly federal now, but you want to make sure that they're supporting voting rights. Okay. And you want to make sure to tell them that you're aware of what that is. And there's great tools out there for you. I've talked to you about some of the tools in the past and the call to action. You got a great thing out there that's an activism app. It's called 5 Calls. Basically, this allows you to make your voice heard. Basically, what this app is, it's out there for the iPhone, it's out there for your Google phone, and it basically allows you to contact your congressman. It has the issues on there, and it actually makes all the calls for you. So Apple has it, Google has it, and it's an app that's free. You just download it on your phone, and boom, you're ready to go. And there you have to do, man. That's a great tool. It basically loads in the issues, makes the call, because once you put in your name, you put in where you live, and like, oh, I know who your state representative is. I know who your local rep is. I know who your federal reps are. And here are the issues. Which are the ones that you want to let them know about? Click, I want that one. Voting rights. Boom, it makes the call. Easy peasy, right? And that's what you need to be able to do. And it also lets you know about the people who are running for office in your area. So it's some great tools that are out there right in your hand, right on your phone. So the call to action is, hey, I'm calling. I know about the voting rights issues. I want you to support them. I'm watching. I need the president to sign these things and get them into law because they're important to me and my family and my community. Simple call to action. Other than that, support candidates that are out there supporting the things that you believe in. You can do all kind of support. You can support them with phone calls. You can support them with money. You can support them by getting in the streets and supporting them by getting out there knocking on doors. If you don't want to do that, you say, I can't do that. Well, hey, there's always a phone. There's always phone banks, and you can also contribute money. That's right. If you need to help a candidate, you like what they're doing, hey, send them $5. You can You got $25. Heck, you can give $5 to every candidate. There's all kinds of ways that you can help, is my point. Not just your local candidates, but your candidates from all over. Folks, that's it. That's my spill. I do it every week. Voting rights. We need to get this in place. It is the long game. Stay focused. We got to get it done. But let me do something else right now. I want to tell you a little bit about the guest that we have. And we do have a fantastic guest. I'm going to tell you a little bit about him. And it is Herb Jones. Herb Jones is a fantastic gentleman. I've known him for a few years now. And Herb is the Democratic candidate for the Virginia 1st Congressional District in the upcoming general election that's getting ready to happen on November the 8th, 2022. So make sure you're registered now. Make sure that, you don't want to show up and find out, something's wrong with my registration, I can't vote. And you want to get out there and support guys like Herb Jones running for the U.S. Congress. And again, it's Virginia's 1st Congressional District. And Herb's also a veteran, a retired Army colonel who bravely served his country for 30 years. He's been out there not just talking the talk, but walking the walk. Upon entering civilian life, Herb was also elected as the new Kent County Treasurer, promoting community prosperity. And also, we love talking about this, he is a small business owner and co-founder and CEO of Pyramid Technologies. Herb is also a proud member of the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. So Herb is out there working in his community, doing a bunch of things, and he's also out there making sure he's involved in civic organizations and in getting things done. And a little personal information about Herb. Herb and his wife, Yvonne, she is a retired lifelong, let me get my words straight here. She is a retired lifelong educator, and they're both residents of New Kent County, and also proud parents and grandparents. So folks, there you go. And you see the tab across the bottom where you can support Herb, and you can also see where his website is. It's all right there. Herb Jones is the Democratic candidate for Virginia, for Virginia's 1st Congressional District. So folks, without further ado, I run my mouth every week, but man, it is time to bring folks into the stream. And here he is. Herb, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, Mark. How are you? Thanks for that introduction, man. And that is very educational, what you share with your audience every day. That's outstanding.
Thank you very much. I'm a one-trick pony right now until we get that into place. Of course, I can chew gum and walk at the same time, but every week I'm going to tell folks about this, because if they don't have those voting rights, they can't get people in office like yourself.
Absolutely.
And Herb, I want to turn things over to you and just let you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to run for office, and just some background on you so people can get to know you a little better.
Okay. Well, I grew up in Roanoke, Virginia. The oldest of four boys. My parents were both in medicine. They shared with us, as they were raising us, they shared with us a number of things about some of the challenges that they dealt with when they were coming up. And the one thing that they believed in this country. They believed in a more perfect union, right? So, so they worked. They made sure that excellence was the standard. They wanted us to work hard. They wanted us to plan. And, like I said, it's four of us. I have three younger brothers. We've all done well. Nobody's been to jail, in prison, or anything like that. We've all had children. Huh?
I said, I hope not.
Right. I attended Appalachian State University. I actually studied healthcare administration. And while I was there, I joined ROTC. The best single decision of my life was joining ROTC. And like you said, I did a total of 30 years. I did 10 years of active service, and then my last 20 years were in the reserves. And then, like you said, I was the treasurer for New Kent County. Before that, I was a stockbroker for Edward Jones. Some of your folks may have heard of Colonial Downs. It's the racetrack in Virginia. I was the director of investor relations for Colonial Downs before I ran for treasurer. But yeah, called to active duty, served 2 tours in Iraq. Came back from Iraq, and then in 2012 I retired. I retired from everything. I took a job in Afghanistan for 2 years, basically overseeing logistics for the whole Afghan theater. And in 2014, I started my own business. My brother and I started a business, and it's doing quite well. And I had never intended to run for Congress. When the clock ticked to 2022, running for Congress this year was not on my calendar. It was not on my agenda. But what happened was nobody was going to run. We had a couple people put their name in the hat, and for whatever reason, they pulled their name out. And March was coming up, and it looked like the person who's currently sitting in that seat right now was going to run unopposed. And I saw what happened on January 6th. I took the oath, and I meant it. When I took the oath to defend, protect, and defend the Constitution, I meant that. And I took oath not to a man, not to a king, not to an individual, but to the Constitution. So, and when I saw the person sitting in this seat right now, he voted to overturn the election results of 2020, and he was okay with the insurrection. And when it looked like he was going to run unopposed, I absolutely was not going to allow that to happen. And that's why I decided to run. So let me tell you a little bit about our district. And I just got off a call with an organization that's possible that might endorse me and it might not, but they wanted to talk to me, and they said, "You're in a tough race." Well, with redistricting, the district I'm in, 50% of the district is new. We have the two largest localities in Henrico County and Chesterfield County have been trending blue for the last 20 years. And then if you include Williamsburg and James City County, the two portions of those localities that are new, 50% of the district is new. So it's rated a +5 Republican district. It's the same as it was 4 years ago when Abigail Spanberger defeated Dave Bratt. So we're gonna follow Abigail's lead, use some of the same tactics that she used, and we really we have a very good chance. In fact, I believe we're going to win. So those are some of the things about the campaign. Now, some of my beliefs, I think that right now we have a problem with guns, and some folks will have you believe that it's a mental health problem. Mental health is a problem around the world. We're the only ones that have 400 million guns. It's not a mental health problem, it's a gun problem. And we need to regulate guns. Most of the folks that are listening tonight, if you have a driver's license or in a car, you have insurance for your car, you had to get trained to drive your car, and periodically you got to get retrained. But not with guns. Exactly. An 18-year-old can go and get buy a gun, $20,000 worth of guns on credit, and then go out and shoot up a school.
Makes no sense.
Another thing about guns, Mark, is if you go to the store and you buy milk and you take that milk home and you give it to your children, and your children get sick, you can sue the store, you can sue the folks that brought the milk to the store, you can sue the manufacturer. Can't do that with guns. Guns is the only product that you cannot sue the manufacturer for a product that's harmful to other people. That needs to be changed. California just passed legislation to fix that out there. That's what we need to look at across the country.
Well, I know, Herb, you served 30 years in the military. I mean, you obviously know how to use a weapon, and you obviously have had to use a weapon in your career. So it's not like you don't support or understand the commitment to protecting the country and the commitment and what the Second Amendment is all about. So, I mean, I think a lot of things happen when people misinterpret the Second Amendment to mean something other than what it means. It doesn't mean everybody gets a gun at 18, an AR-15, and they just get to go use it willy-nilly. There's got to be some controls, just like every other thing we have. I'm 100%, and most African Americans are 100% supporters of the Second Amendment. If anybody needs to be supported of it, we do, given our history in this country. So, but explain to me what I guess to the folks out there the other things that you are supporting and the reason why you're running for Congress.
Well, let's look at what happened in June of last month. The last week of June, on a Thursday, the Supreme Court said that states cannot regulate handguns. Cannot regulate handguns. On Friday, they said states could regulate women's uteruses. So women are basically, from one day to the next, women have basically become second-class citizens.
Yeah,
in this country.
yeah.
They can't make their own healthcare decisions without the government being in the middle of the whole thing. So we need to codify a women's right to have an abortion and to make her own healthcare decisions in the privacy of a doctor's office.
You're absolutely right about that. You're absolutely right about that. And people say women because, I mean, they're the ones who actually have babies, but it affects men as well. It's not just women, but women are the ones who are primarily affected. But that effect, that thing, as far as, as I said earlier, with husbands, brothers, grandparents, everybody is there's what we call intersectionality on this issue. It's about women's bodies, but it's more than just that, right?
Absolutely. We need affordable healthcare. Healthcare. We still have people who are filing bankruptcy because of healthcare, and that is absolutely ridiculous. We're supposed to be the most powerful country on earth, the wealthiest country on earth, and we can't provide health care for every American. That's ridiculous. So those are the things that are most important to me. And then the one thing that really just burns me up is the oath of office that so many folks last year, they showed us they really don't care about the oath. They care about power and control and trying to stay in power and trying to overthrow our government. And the person who's sitting in the seat that I'm going to occupy next year was all for that. So those are the issues that I find, at the top of my agenda in terms of what I want to accomplish when I get in office next year.
Have you had an opportunity to have any debates with your with the other candidate, the other side of the fence? Are there any debates that are scheduled that people can support?
They are talking about, I think there's a group that's talking about doing it now. I think the League of Women Voters in Williamsburg is talking about that right now. But outside that, there's been no discussion about a debate. A campaign can't set that up. It has to be an outside entity that's independent that schedules debates and forums. We can't, we can't do that. So I'd love to debate because I'm going to talk about his record. His record is horrendous. He voted against baby formula. He voted against capping the price of insulin. I mean, basic stuff. He voted against women or against gay people getting married.
Let me ask you this: when you get into office, you say I'm using the positive. How do you feel about the reducing the debt or eliminating the debt for American families as far as for college? Because people also say it's student debt, but it's actually student parent debt because the parents are the ones who sign all these loans so the kids can have them. So if the kids don't pay, the parents have to pay. What's your feeling on that?
That's a great question. It actually affects three generations. It's the student, the parents, and the grandparents. A lot of grandparents are footing that bill as well. I think that student debt up to $50,000 should be forgiven. And see, when you and I were in college, it didn't cost, $200,000 to get a college degree.
No, it didn't.
And a lot of people say, well, I had to pay mine. They should pay theirs. Well, even if you're only 40 years old, it still wasn't as expensive then as it is now. So I think if you forgive $50,000 worth of debt for a lot of right now, it's a game changer for a lot of people.
Well, I think it's not only $50,000 in total. It ought to be $50,000 for 4 years because we don't support the things that we used to support. I mean, Pell Grants used to pay for almost 70% of a tuition year. And then you had your national student direct loans. And of course, if you live in the state of Virginia, went to a private school, you actually got a tuition assistance grant. But the Pell Grants, Obama raised it from $4,000, which it was when I was in school 40 years ago almost, to $6,000. But what has happened on the state level and the federal level, the free money is no longer available, and it's not enough. And then on the state level, the states are not funding these institutions the way they used to fund them. It's almost like we've gotten ours. Now this next generation is coming up. Now they're just passing that bill on. But like I always tell people, whether it's small business issues or issues concerning education, you're a taxpayer. It's your money. You're giving it to the government. You have a right to tell the government what they should be doing with that money. And that's what you do by electing the right people who carry those policies forward. So, you know, I'm glad to hear that you support that. Yeah, but I'm gonna press you for not just 50. I'm gonna press her for 50. I'm not a constituent.
I hear you, Mark.
50 a year for 4 years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, 50,000 is a good start.
Yeah, it's a good start. It's better than nothing. We don't have anything right now.
Right. Exactly. So, yeah. The other thing that you talked about in your intro was the vote. You know,
right.
and the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. That's just common sense.
Right. Absolutely.
You know, and it's like we're taking a step back to the 50s. You know, with the elimination of preclearance, and you know,
well, it's not a Democratic thing. It's not a Republican thing. It's an American thing. It's a constitutional thing. Let the people come forth with the best arguments, and whoever gets the votes win. But to try to fix it beforehand and afterhand is really the issue. Is the reason why we have to protect this. And I know you're all for that.
Absolutely. The other thing we need to look at in terms of voting is the Electoral College.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about it, T. Rump he's never won an election. Hillary beat him by 3 million votes, and Biden beat him by 7 million. He's never won an election. And if you understand the history of the Electoral College, do we really need it?
Well, like I said, tell people it's about the long game. If folks think the Electoral College needs to go, and personally, I'm a believer of that. And the only reason why it was in place is because, you know, the whole 3/5 thing and states who didn't have as many people, and, you know, unless you were slave states, you got to, you know, count your slaves as 3/5 for each one. The whole thing makes no sense. And it's not relevant today. It is antiquated. And I think if enough Americans believe that, then enough of them will get behind having some sort of constitutional convention and just tossing it. And the reason why you have amendments, and the reason why the founders put it in place, because they knew that they couldn't foresee everything in the future. Hence, you have amendments. And that's how you change the Constitution. Constitution, people, you know, say, oh, I'm a traditionalist or something like that or whatever. Well, guess what? There's no such thing as a traditionalist with the Constitution. It has amendments.
Exactly. By design.
By design. You're exactly right.
Yeah. You know, the founders had no way of anticipating the firepower that one of these semi-automatic weapons have. I mean, you know, it's a weapon of war. It's a weapon of war that does not need to be on the streets of America.
Mass discussion. The Second Amendment really had to deal with muskets and to prevent the government from coming and taking you over the way that King George did with the colonies back when it first got started. And each state and a governor could have a militia to bring their folks together to protect their people. That has nothing to do with AR-15s and 18-year-olds. Absolutely nothing. That's all that originalist stuff in the Constitution that doesn't make any sense. So it's a long game. We just got to stay in there. I think we can. I know we can win this fight, Herb, especially with people like yourself.
Well, people got to vote. We've got to vote, and if we don't, we're gonna lose our democracy. I'm not sure how much time we got left. There's a book I'm reading called There's a book I'm reading called How Democracies Die. And if you read this book, it talks about they studied how democracies died. It's two Harvard professors that have studied this over the last how democracies have died over the last 100 years. Before the end of the Cold War, democracies generally were eliminated through a military coup. After the Cold War, it's been through elections. And the first thing that happens is you elect a demagogue.
Right.
And then the demagogue gets in office and he changes the laws to where they can't put him out. Now, we've already elected a demagogue one time, and the demagogue tried to violently take over our government.
Yeah.
We got to vote. And if we don't vote, he can get in there again. And I'm telling you, he won't make the same mistake the second time.
And you may get a guy who's smarter than the guy we had in there before. So, and I don't mean that in a good way.
Yeah. But if we vote, if we pay attention and we vote, we can stop that.
Exactly.
And the vote is our superpower. You know, we got to get Bubba, Ray, and Pookie out to vote. We got to get them registered, and they got to vote.
As I say, it's not just the people who vote regularly. You also have to get, there's 50% of the people in the country don't vote. If we can get at least 10 to 20% of those folks who just aren't voting, and people come out and vote the way they've been voting, we can do this. And if we do it on a local, state, and federal level, then we'll have massive numbers, and we can basically put the policies in place that we want to put in place that basically the Constitution allows us to do. So I'm all with you on that, Herb.
The largest single block of voters are those that don't vote. That block of voters is larger than Republicans and larger than Democrats.
Yep. Well, the whole thing is with the minority trying to rule over the majority, and they make it sound like like they have the majority of what Americans feel, but the majority of policies that Americans want don't get passed because of a minority of people. Right. And they have other interests other than just doing the best thing for the country. They have financial interests. They have other ulterior motives and things of that nature. So the only thing that can beat that is voting and people staying involved. You're absolutely right.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Any other things you want to talk about, man? Tell us a little bit about your family, man. And you said you have children, you have grandchildren, and your wife has been doing some things.
I have two sons. I have a son, oldest son, Damien, lives in New Jersey. Okay. And he's married with a 5-year-old grandson, or 5-year-old son, our grandson. And then I have a son that's in California, Malcolm. And he went out there for grad school and decided to stay out there. So, yeah. We see our grandson about, I don't know, 3 or 4 times a year. In fact, my wife is in New York right now. She's picking her mother up, and she's going to swing through New Jersey and pick up the grandson and bring him down. And he is a ball of energy. He is a ball of energy. Yeah,
I know grandparents want to see their grandchildren, man. I know that's true.
Yeah, we do. And, the thing is, when he comes down, he generally stays about 10 days, and we are exhausted when it's time for him to go. It takes one little dude around, boy. He is, he never slows down.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, so did any of your sons follow you in your steps in the military, or what did they?
No. They didn't follow me in the military or athletics. They didn't do it.
Each generation is different.
Yeah. They that's all it is. So no, but I tell them, I mean, it's not too late, but they're never gonna do it. They're never gonna do it.
Oh, now you also say your wife's an educator, right? She spent her years as an educator.
She was my wife is one of those rare people that loves mathematics. She actually has a master's degree in mathematics. And when I first met her, she told me she had a degree in mathematics. I'm like, what's wrong with you? Yeah.
She probably said, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, but, But I mean, but she was she's good at what she does. She was a math curriculum coordinator for Williamsburg James City County School System for a while, and then she was had a couple assistant principalships, and then there was an opening here in New Kent in the early 2000s, and she applied for it, and they interviewed her and hired her, and she did a great job.
Well, that's fantastic. And the fact that she's a good teacher, she's teaching that next generation and helping them to, get those STEM skills, man. Those STEM skills are important.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the way for the future.
Well, you know what? And you have a technology company, so I know you understand that.
Right.
I wanted to ask you a question that I always ask all of my guests that come on the Small Business Caucus Show live is if you were king for a day and you have the magic scepter and you can have anything done that you want to have done and wave that scepter and it gets done, what is the thing that you would most want to do? What is the first thing you do?
I think that we take this country for granted. I think most of us take this country for granted, and I think there should be some type of mandatory service, not necessarily in the military, but something where you're doing something for your community. After high school or even after college, I think there should be some type of mandatory service, because I don't think people really appreciate. We live in a great country, but freedom is not free, and people seem to think that just because you're born here, you're entitled. Well, yeah, per the Constitution, you are, but I think there should be some. You have a duty to this country because of the opportunities that it provides you. That I think there should be some type of service that you should have to perform as a means of giving back to the community. So that would be one of the things I would certainly try to implement.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, Herb. I'm not surprised to hear you say that. And I say a lot of that same thing to a lot of my guests, because that goes along with the other things you were talking about. Well, listen, if you're going to get $50,000 forgiven in student loan debt, let's say whether you're serving in the military, whether you're serving in a civic agency, basically the government is saying we're going to use your resources and the taxes that people pay to clear the deck for you educationally. So if you need to start a small business, or if you need to buy your first home after you finish high school or college, put those 2 years out. It doesn't have to be the military. You could work for some federal agency, just basically giving back. And another country that does that, Herb, is Israel.
Right.
They have 2 years mandatory service, male or female, in their military. And I'm not saying it's got to be military, but I do think it should be male and female. And I think everybody should give back in a civic way to their country to support the things we're trying to get done. So I mean, I'm not surprised to hear you say that. That fits right into what you've been talking about.
The other part of that is, if you ask a young person in high school or even in college, well, what's your plan? And you get the shrug, I think a couple of years of mandatory service for a lot of these young folks provides them a little more opportunity to mature and try to figure out what they want to do. And you also have some cross-pollination. I mean, in the military, you meet folks from all different walks of life, right? And it kind of makes you think about it forces you to think about things. And right now, a lot of these kids, they never leave. They never go 50 miles from where they were born or where they grew up.
Right.
And
right.
I think, I think if you will find that most folks who've traveled, or they contemplate more, they think things through more, and they're a little more open to folks who are different than they are. And part of the problem we have right now, folks are too close-minded.
Well, they're too colloquial. I think when you do travel more, and all full disclosure, my dad, almost 30 years Air Force, we traveled all over the country, all over the world. And as a result of growing up that way, you see people from all over the world, and you meet Americans from all over the country in different scenarios, and it just kind of opens up your mind, and you're less you're less likely to be fooled by somebody saying something that just doesn't make sense, because you've seen things with your own eyes. Both people who are Americans, not Americans, you find that more people have more in common than they don't have in common.
Exactly right. That's exactly right.
In this country as well as around the world. So you're absolutely right about that, man. So I'm glad to hear you say that, but I'm not surprised to hear you say it. What else you want to tell the folks, man, before you leave, man?
Herb Jones, FortVirginia.com. Herb Jones, FortVirginia.com. Go there. If you can volunteer, do postcards, phone bank. If you have a little spare change, send us some money. The campaign is coming along very nicely, and we're going to shock the world on November 8th. People are going to be surprised. The enthusiasm in the 1st Congressional District, from Henrico County all the way down to the Northern Neck, is amazing. It's overwhelming. They want to see a change, and they're absolutely tired of the same old mess that we've been getting from the person that's in that seat right now. They're ready for it to go.
I've been sitting there letting that banner run for people to donate to your campaign, people to know where they can go hear more specifics or work with your campaign. That banner's been running during our whole conversation. So people are going to see this, man, and I'm going to go ahead and just tell people about the great work you've been doing, and looking forward to your success on November the 8th.
Thank you. And thanks for the opportunity to be on your show.
Oh man, this is, like I said, it's everybody's show, and this is the time that we love to bring people on and have people meet folks that they wouldn't ordinarily get to have this conversation with you. But I have folks be able to see this conversation and say, hey, let me help this candidate out. He's supporting the things that I believe in. Let me do what I can do for his campaign, people-wise, money-wise, whatever we can do. But at this point, man, we are glad to see you here. We're about to hit that point there. We're coming to the end of the show.
All right.
Herb, we're glad to have you and hope to have you back again. Good luck on November the 8th. And thank you for being on the Virginia Democratic Small Business Caucus Show live. Get it done, Herb. We're supporting you.
Okay, thanks, Mark.